A regional approach to wastewater issues on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, February 7th, 2012. I'm Sarah Colvin. Barnstable police are investigating a serious one-car crash. A late-model Cadillac slammed into a tree on Route 132 just after midnight. Rescuers needed to extricate the driver from the wreckage. That person was flown to a Boston hospital for treatment. Another person was taken to Cape Cod Hospital with what are described as serious but not life-threatening injuries. The cause of the crash unknown at this time. Route 132 was closed between the YMCA and Route 6A for a time this morning while NSTAR crews worked to repair a damaged utility pole. That roadway is reopened. State Senator Dan Wolf, along with the rest of the Cape's legislative delegation, penned a column pertaining to wastewater issues that appeared in this past Sunday's Cape Cod Times. Wolf and the other legislators are hoping for a regional solution to the area's wastewater problems. I spoke with Senator Wolf about that very issue on this morning's Barnstable.
I think probably what will happen in the next 6 to 12 months, Sarah, is that there will be a regional entity set up, probably in relationship with the county government in some way, and that's being worked on now, and I think it's part of what's being discussed as we look at the county charter rewrite. That regional entity will be able to speak with authority to both the state and the federal government and really go after funding sources. That authority perhaps would also have the ability to bond so that whatever improvements and infrastructure we're going to build, we have the ability to build it over time using a bonding authority. And, then there's going to be that regional entity is going to be responsible for actually looking in partnership with the towns, neighborhood by neighborhood, house by house, watershed by watershed, lake by lake, embayment by embayment, to really understand what the best solutions are at any given location and in any given situation. So it's really going to be an innovative approach. One of the things that's exciting to me about this is that it's going to be an economic driver for the Cape, too. As we spend the next 20 years building this infrastructure and solving this problem, we're going to become a world leader in clean water technology. And, we already have some entities on the Cape that are working on that. But this is going to be a replicable solution that we're going to be able to take elsewhere, and it's going to be an economic driver as well. So it's really a home run on all levels.
Indeed. And Dan, I think it's important to note, too, that, whereas you are looking at a regional approach, it's not taking away the valuable information, knowledge, and planning that all of our various towns have. This is a regional approach that also works very closely with our town officials in each Cape Cod town from Bourne all the way up to Provincetown.
Well, four of the towns that we're talking about have already built infrastructures or are in the process of building it, and that would be Provincetown, Chatham, Barnstable, and Falmouth. So, there are some skeptics in those towns saying, "Well, we've already got our solution. Why should we participate?" And the reason is that there are opportunities as we integrate a regional plan that those towns could actually save money on the infrastructure that they're already paying for, and it could be a relief for those people. There will also be some opportunities to cross line, and just as an example, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if you look at the Chatham infrastructure that's built with a regional approach and view of it, there might be an opportunity, for example, to share some of that infrastructure capacity with Harwich, which would save money overall and reduce the cost both for Harwich and Chatham residents. So, the same could be true with Yarmouth and Barnstable. The same could be true with Falmouth and Mashpee. So when you take a regional approach, you really find that there are a lot more opportunities available to partner, to save money, to find efficiencies, and to actually have better water solutions. So it really could be a home run on all issues, on all fronts.
Sure, and I know you have kind of a framework of a plan as to how you're going to work to achieve your goals laid out. The first being that you want to work, as we said, with local boards of selectmen and the county to build a consensus for a regional plan. Does that fall into the category of, as you said, kind of at the county level forming a group to look at this? Is that something that's already underway? Is it something that you're looking to do very soon?
Well, I think it's being looked at by really smart people who have done this before. As you know, Andy Gottlieb has been involved with water issues off the Cape. So there are already people who have sort of ideas and alternatives in their mind. But we really can't have too much of a gelled plan until we do a lot more educating and a lot more interaction and discussion with folks at the town level. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. I think there's a all Cape Selectmen meeting on Friday that a bunch of the legislators are going to be at. I think Paul Nedzwick and Andy Gottlieb are going to try to be at that. And that's only the beginning. We're going to do a series of workshops and informational sessions so that we're really hearing from the town and able to have that dialogue from the towns to make sure that when we do it, we get it right for everybody. We get it right for folks who see this as a region and know it's a regional issue that needs to be addressed, but also folks who want to make sure that their towns are responsible, both in the structure and the payment and the implementation of the plan. So it's a really exciting opportunity.
Exactly. And looking to the state level, Dan, talk to me a little bit about how you're hoping to get the state involved and why it's important to get the state support for working on a plan such as this.
Well, the Secretary of the Environment and Energy, Rick Sullivan, has been down here, I think, 3 times now, and specifically to look at what we've done so far and to discuss what we need to do in the future in wastewater. The DEP Commissioner, Ken Kimmel, has been down several times. So we've already had a very good discussion with the department and with the Commissioner about what needs to be done and why. I think, we're going to have to look for statewide resources, which are few and far between right now because of the budget pressure. But understanding that this is a 20-year plan and understanding that economies go through cycles, I have no doubt that we will be able to find state resources as we move forward and as we need to find those resources. And I feel the same way about the federal government, Sarah. One of the things that we very often overlook is that, Cape Cod is a gateway to the national seashore, and that's a huge national entity. It's a huge national resource, and it's a lot of acreage on the Cape. So as we talk about implementing a wastewater solution regionally for the Cape, I think it's fair to ask what role the national government, in particular the national seashore, can play in that, since a lot of the land and a lot of the water is in their boundaries. And that's a discussion we're already quietly having as well.
Indeed, definitely a very important segment of that, Dan, for sure. And I know that tapping into the federal government in hopes of getting some resources and some support from that will be very important in moving, again, the project that could potentially cost billions of dollars moving forward.
Well, one interesting thing to point out is Key West, for example, which you could argue is sort of a similar situation relative to its aquifer and its wastewater problems. There's about 30,000 year-round residents in Key West, so it's more densely populated. But back in the 80s, when they dealt with the wastewater issue, the federal government then had a program where they would pay between 80 and 90% of the project. Unfortunately, those programs no longer exist, although hopefully over time we'll see the federal government have that capacity again, maybe not to that degree, but have the capacity to help. So we'll be working on that with our federal legislators, with Bill Keating, who I know is really good and understands the issue, and our senators as well.
Indeed. So, Dan, in talking and thinking, obviously, I know this is still in the discussion phase, but when we look at potential solutions and a necessity, obviously, as we've talked about the town of Chatham and here in Barnstable and other towns, they've been working on creating sewer systems. But in terms of looking at other approaches, other creative approaches to solving this problem, what thoughts and ideas have come up so far?
You mean as far as technical solutions?
Yes.
We're looking at everything from innovative water technologies, and there's a lot of discussion in Falmouth with urine diverting toilets. We're looking at small neighborhood cluster type systems. We're looking at upgrading the individual septic systems that are at the houses, those Title V systems, which really don't do anything to help with nitrogen. And then we're looking at the centralized systems like have already been built in some of the towns, as we discussed before. So I think as far as solutions, you're going to see a lot of creative, innovative, forward-looking technology.
With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.